Hello everyone, and welcome to Learn English 24/7. I'm James, and I'm so happy to have you here today. Whether you're a new viewer or have been with us for a while, I want to say thank you for being part of this wonderful community. If you're new, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss out on any of our latest lessons. Here at Learn English 24/7, we're dedicated to helping you improve your English fluency in a fun and simple way. I know learning a new language can be tough, especially when you're trying to speak confidently. But don't worry, you're not alone. In this channel, we're all about making language learning feel approachable and exciting. Whether you're looking to improve your vocabulary, pronunciation, or overall fluency, I'm here to help you along the way. Today, we're going to talk about one powerful tool that will make your learning journey much easier: graded readers and how stories can boost your fluency. So, what exactly is the focus of today's lesson? In this video, we're going to explore how you can improve your English fluency using graded readers. You might have heard of them before, or perhaps this is the first time you're learning about them. Simply put, graded readers are books specifically designed for English learners, with language that's easy to understand and gradually increases in difficulty as you progress. But here's the thing, graded readers aren't just about reading. They're also a fantastic way to improve your speaking skills, because they help you build a stronger connection with the language. In this video, we'll see how learning through stories not only helps you remember new words and understand sentence structure, but also boosts your confidence in speaking English. Plus, I'll show you some simple and effective techniques you can use to practice daily, ensuring that your speaking fluency improves every day. Now, let's talk about why this is important for you. Many of you probably struggle with fluency at some point in your learning journey. You may know a lot of vocabulary, but when it comes to speaking, the words just don't come out as smoothly as you'd like. Or maybe you're unsure about the correct pronunciation or grammar when trying to have a conversation in English. These are all common challenges, and trust me, you're not alone. The good news is, improving your fluency doesn't have to be difficult or stressful. In fact, it can be fun. The key is consistent practice and using the right tools. And that's where graded readers come in. These books are tailored to help learners like you practice English at the right level. By reading stories that are both engaging and educational, you'll improve not just your vocabulary, but also your understanding of how sentences are constructed. Over time, you'll start to feel more confident in using the language naturally, just like you would in your native language. Let's face it, language learning can feel overwhelming, especially when you're faced with long lists of vocabulary words or complicated grammar rules. But stories make the process much more enjoyable and relatable. When you read a story, you're not just memorizing words, you're learning them in context. This makes it easier to remember the words and use them in real-life conversations. Whether you're reading about a character's adventure or their day-to-day life, you're also getting practice in sentence structure, tenses, and vocabulary, all while enjoying an interesting story. So, what will you learn in this video? By the end, you'll have a clear understanding of how graded readers can help you improve both your reading and speaking skills. I'll walk you through a step-by-step approach to using these books effectively and show you how you can incorporate them into your daily routine. Plus, I'll give you some practical techniques you can start using today to improve your fluency. But that's not all. I'll also share some tips on how to stay consistent with your practice, so you can keep making progress every day. You'll see that with a little effort, and the right resources, your English fluency will improve faster than you think. So grab a notebook, get ready to take some notes, and let's dive into today's lesson. Meet Sarah. Sarah has been learning English for a few years, and like many of us, she's made significant progress. She understands a lot when reading or listening to English and can easily follow along with conversations in movies or podcasts. But when it comes to speaking, that's where things get tricky. Whenever Sarah tries to have a conversation, she feels nervous, and the words don't come out as smoothly as she would like. She often finds herself stumbling over simple sentences, forgetting words, or mispronouncing them. She's not alone in this struggle. Many learners face similar issues, and the pressure to speak perfectly can be overwhelming. The more Sarah thinks about how she might make a mistake, the harder it becomes to speak confidently. Sarah knows that improving her fluency is key to becoming a better communicator in English, but she feels stuck. She practices grammar and vocabulary on a regular basis, but when it's time to speak, she still feels unsure. The frustration Sarah feels is something a lot of learners can relate to. After all, fluency isn't just about knowing words or grammar, it's about being able to use them comfortably and naturally in conversation. And that's not always easy to achieve, especially when nerves get in the way. Sarah's situation isn't unique. In fact, it's a common challenge many English learners face. You might understand the language well, but speaking fluently can feel like a completely different skill. This problem often arises because speaking is more than just recalling vocabulary, it's about expressing yourself in real time. It requires quick thinking, confidence, and the ability to form sentences on the spot. If you've ever felt nervous about making mistakes or struggling to find the right words during a conversation, you're probably facing the same issue Sarah is. For Sarah, even though she knew the grammar and had built up a solid vocabulary, speaking with others still felt like a huge challenge. And like many learners, she wondered if there was an easier way to bridge the gap between what she knew and how she could use that knowledge in a real conversation. She realized that simply memorizing vocabulary or studying grammar wasn't enough to help her overcome her fear of speaking. Sarah needed a way to practice speaking in a way that didn't feel so intimidating. This is where her journey towards improving fluency takes a new turn. One day, Sarah discovers something that could help her become more confident in speaking English: graded readers. Graded readers are books specifically designed for language learners. They use simple vocabulary and grammar, which makes them accessible to people at all stages of learning. The idea is that as learners progress, they can gradually increase the difficulty of the books they read. Unlike traditional novels or textbooks, graded readers are structured to help learners feel more confident in their understanding of the language and in their ability to speak it. Sarah had heard about graded readers before but never really thought of them as a way to improve her speaking. However, as she looked more into them, she realized they could be the perfect solution. These books are designed to be read aloud, and by practicing speaking in this way, learners can improve not only their pronunciation but also their fluency. Sarah decided to give it a try. She picked up a graded reader and started reading aloud each morning. At first, she focused on short, simple stories, the kind that used familiar vocabulary and sentence structures. As she read aloud, she tried to mimic the natural rhythm and pronunciation of the sentences. Sometimes she had to repeat phrases a few times before they felt comfortable. But as she continued practicing, Sarah began to notice a difference. At first, it was hard for Sarah to shake off the nervousness. She is still worried about making mistakes, especially with pronunciation. But gradually, something amazing started to happen. The more she read aloud, the more comfortable she became with speaking. The words started to come more easily. She began to recognize sentence patterns and vocabulary that she had struggled with before. Reading aloud not only helped her understand the language better, but it also helped her speak with more confidence. Sarah also found that reading stories from graded readers helped her improve her ability to form sentences quickly. Since the books were written with language learners in mind, they featured common expressions and everyday vocabulary. This helped Sarah build her speaking skills in a way that felt natural, rather than academic. As she read, she practiced using the words and phrases in her own speech, and that made a big difference in her ability to express herself. As Sarah continued her daily practice, she found that speaking became less of a struggle. The fear of making mistakes didn't disappear completely, but it didn't hold her back anymore. She became more willing to try speaking in conversations, and slowly, her fluency improved. Sarah started feeling much more comfortable speaking English in class, with her friends, and even during work meetings. Her journey wasn't overnight, and she still had moments of self-doubt, but she realized that speaking confidently comes from consistent practice. By reading aloud from graded readers every day, Sarah had built the foundation she needed to feel more comfortable expressing herself in English. The key to her success wasn't perfection, it was simply practice and the willingness to keep going, even when she made mistakes. Sarah's journey shows us that fluency isn't just about memorizing words or grammar rules. It's about using the language comfortably in real-life situations, and that takes consistent practice. For anyone struggling with fluency, whether you're a beginner or an intermediate learner, remember that the road to confidence is not about avoiding mistakes, it's about facing them and improving little by little. Like Sarah, you can start by reading aloud from graded readers, repeating phrases, and gradually increasing the difficulty of the books you read. It's not about how perfect your English is, but about how consistently you practice and how confident you become as you do. So, if you feel like Sarah once did, nervous and unsure, remember that with daily practice, you can overcome those struggles and become a fluent, confident English speaker. Sarah's experience is one that many learners can relate to. Despite her dedication to learning English, she often finds herself struggling to express her thoughts clearly when speaking. During conversations, Sarah frequently gets stuck searching for the right words. There are long pauses, moments of silence where she feels like everyone is waiting for her to speak, but the words just don't come fast enough. This makes her feel frustrated and discouraged. She knows a lot of vocabulary and grammar, and when she's reading or listening, she understands everything just fine. But when it comes to speaking, it's a different story. She can't seem to put everything together quickly enough. When she tries to speak, she worries about making mistakes, especially with pronunciation. Sometimes, she even forgets simple words that she knows very well, which makes her feel embarrassed and self-conscious. It's as though her brain is working slower than her mouth, and she struggles to keep up with the flow of conversation. As a result, Sarah hesitates before speaking, unsure if her words will sound correct or if people will understand her. This constant self-doubt makes speaking feel like a stressful task rather than an enjoyable experience. Sarah's challenges with speaking are common among many language learners. It's easy to feel like you're alone in this struggle, but the reality is that it happens to almost everyone at some point in their language learning journey. Whether it's the fear of making mistakes, struggling to recall words quickly, or feeling that you can't express yourself as fluently as you'd like, Sarah's experience mirrors the challenges that many learners face. For Sarah, this struggle feels discouraging. But the truth is, this is a normal part of the learning process, and it doesn't mean she's not making progress. It just means she needs to find the right tools and strategies to help her overcome these barriers and improve her speaking fluency. And that's exactly what Sarah is about to discover. One day, while talking to a friend who had also been learning English, Sarah opened up about her frustrations. She explained how she understood English when reading or listening, but speaking was still a major challenge. Sarah's friend, having gone through similar struggles, suggested something that Sarah had never tried before: graded readers. Graded readers are books specifically designed for learners at different levels of English proficiency. They contain simplified vocabulary and sentence structures, making them easier to read and understand. There are many types of graded readers, each tailored to different skill levels, from beginner to advanced. The idea is to help learners build their reading skills step by step, with stories that become progressively more challenging. At first, Sarah was skeptical. She wondered how reading books designed for learners could help with her speaking fluency. After all, she was already familiar with a lot of words and grammar. She thought she might be too advanced for such books. But after hearing her friend's positive experience, Sarah decided to give it a try. She started with a beginner-level graded reader, choosing a short story that seemed interesting. The first thing she noticed was how accessible the language was. The sentences were simple, and the vocabulary was familiar to her, yet there were also new words she could learn. Most importantly, the stories were engaging, which made her want to keep reading. As Sarah read aloud, she realized something important. This wasn't just about understanding the words, it was about practicing how to speak them. She focused on pronunciation and reading with expression, just as she would if she were speaking in a conversation. Sarah repeated sentences several times, paying close attention to how the words sounded together. She was no longer just reading in her head, she was speaking the words out loud, hearing herself, and becoming more comfortable with their flow. The beauty of graded readers is that they allow Sarah to practice speaking in a low-pressure environment. She could take her time, go back and reread sections if needed, and gradually build confidence in how she spoke. For Sarah, this was a breakthrough moment. She realized that these books could serve as a tool to bridge the gap between her reading and speaking skills. It was exactly what she needed to start feeling more comfortable speaking English without fear of making mistakes. Over the next few weeks, Sarah made reading graded readers a part of her daily routine. She noticed how much more confident she felt, not just when reading but also when speaking. The more she practiced, the smoother her speech became. She found herself using the new vocabulary and phrases she encountered in her conversations, and the anxiety she once felt when speaking began to fade away. Sarah's journey to fluency with the help of graded readers didn't happen overnight, but by following a structured and consistent approach, she began to notice significant progress. Here's a breakdown of the steps Sarah took to improve her English fluency. Sarah knew she needed to build her confidence step by step, so she began by choosing short stories that were written with simple vocabulary and clear sentence structures. These books, designed for beginner learners, allowed her to engage with the language without feeling overwhelmed. She made sure to pick stories that were interesting to her, which kept her motivated to keep reading each day. The key to improving her speaking fluency was regular practice. Every day, Sarah made it a point to read aloud for at least 15 to 20 minutes. She focused on saying each sentence out loud, paying attention to the sounds of the words and their natural flow. Reading aloud helped her connect the written words with their spoken forms, which improved her pronunciation and rhythm. This practice allowed her to hear herself speaking in English, making it feel more natural over time. As she read, Sarah made sure to slow down and enunciate each word clearly. She paid attention to how native speakers pronounced the words and worked on mimicking their intonation. By doing this, she was not only practicing vocabulary and grammar but also training her ear to recognize the natural rhythm of English. This step was crucial in helping Sarah sound more fluent and less hesitant when speaking. One of the things that Sarah found most helpful was repeating the words and sentences that were challenging for her. Whenever she encountered a word or phrase that felt difficult to say, she would go back and repeat it multiple times until it felt comfortable. By doing this, she began to internalize the sounds and structures, making it easier to recall them in real conversations. Repetition helped build muscle memory for her mouth and tongue, which in turn improved her fluency. As Sarah's confidence grew, she started to challenge herself by reading slightly more advanced graded readers. The stories were still designed for learners, but the vocabulary and sentence structures became a bit more complex. Sarah didn't rush through these new challenges. She made sure to go at her own pace, taking the time to fully understand and pronounce each new word and sentence structure. By gradually increasing the level of difficulty, Sarah ensured that her language skills were expanding without feeling too overwhelmed. Sarah didn't just read for the sake of reading. She set a goal to incorporate graded readers into her daily routine. Whether it was during her morning coffee, while waiting for a bus, or before going to bed, Sarah made sure to set aside time each day to read. The consistency of daily practice allowed her to build a habit, making it easier for her to improve her fluency. As she continued to read regularly, she began to notice her confidence and comfort level with the language growing steadily. As Sarah continued with her daily reading practice, she started tracking her progress. She would note down new vocabulary she had learned, phrases she had mastered, and moments when speaking felt easier than before. Celebrating these small wins, whether by marking them in a journal or sharing her achievements with a friend, motivated Sarah to keep going. It reminded her that language learning is a journey, and each step forward counts. Through these simple yet effective steps, Sarah found that her speaking skills began to improve gradually. She no longer felt stuck when trying to find the right words. Instead, she became more confident in her ability to speak clearly and fluently, all thanks to her daily practice with graded readers. After several weeks of consistent practice with graded readers, Sarah began to see remarkable changes in her fluency and confidence. At first, the process felt slow, but as the days went by, she could feel the difference. The more she practiced, the more comfortable she became with speaking English, and soon, her fluency improved in ways she hadn't anticipated. One of the most significant improvements Sarah noticed was how much more natural speaking English felt. The words no longer got stuck in her mind. Instead of searching for the right word or pausing awkwardly during conversations, Sarah found herself speaking with ease. The vocabulary and phrases she had learned from the graded readers started to flow more naturally, allowing her to express herself more freely. She no longer had to think so hard about what to say. The words came effortlessly, and she felt more like a confident speaker. As Sarah's fluency improved, so did her confidence. She could now join conversations at work, with friends, or even with strangers without the fear of making mistakes. Whether discussing a recent movie or sharing an opinion at a meeting, Sarah felt more comfortable speaking up. She no longer worried about making small errors or being judged for her accent. The fear of speaking faded away, replaced by a sense of ease and accomplishment. She realized that her goal wasn't to speak perfectly but to communicate effectively, and that shift in mindset made a huge difference. A big milestone for Sarah was when she found herself participating in group discussions at work without feeling nervous. In the past, she would have hesitated to speak up, afraid that others would notice her mistakes or that she would struggle to find the right words. But after weeks of practicing with graded readers, Sarah was ready. She contributed to discussions with confidence, listening to others and responding without second-guessing herself. Her colleagues noticed the change, and some even complimented her on how well she was communicating. Another noticeable change was in her pronunciation and intonation. Since she had been practicing aloud, repeating difficult phrases and listening to the rhythm of the language, Sarah's speech became clearer and more fluid. Her intonation, the rise and fall of her voice, began to sound more natural, closer to how native speakers talked. This improvement made her conversations more engaging and enjoyable for both Sarah and those she was speaking with. Not only did Sarah feel more confident in professional settings, but she also found that speaking English in social situations became much easier. She was no longer afraid of making mistakes during casual conversations with friends or while traveling. Whether chatting with someone at a cafe or making small talk at a party, Sarah felt relaxed and willing to engage in the conversation. The fear of speaking had been replaced by a desire to connect with others and practice what she had learned. Sarah took time to celebrate her improvements, big and small. Whether it was having a smooth conversation with a colleague or understanding a movie without subtitles, she recognized each success. This helped her stay motivated, as she could see just how far she had come since she first started reading graded readers. It also reminded her that learning a language is a continuous journey, and every little step forward was worth celebrating. Sarah's consistent practice with graded readers was the key to her progress. The habit of reading aloud every day not only improved her speaking skills but also helped her retain new vocabulary and sentence structures. By practicing regularly, Sarah had made language learning a part of her daily routine, and that commitment paid off in her newfound fluency and confidence. Sarah's story is a perfect example of how regular, focused practice with graded readers can lead to real improvements in speaking fluency. By sticking with it and incorporating reading aloud into her daily routine, Sarah was able to transform her speaking abilities and become the confident English speaker she had always hoped to be. Through her consistent practice with graded readers, Sarah learned a valuable lesson: fluency in a language doesn't come from simply memorizing vocabulary or grammar rules. It's not about getting everything perfect. The real key to improving fluency is practicing regularly, speaking out loud, and putting what you've learned into action. By reading stories aloud, repeating phrases, and engaging with the language daily, Sarah was able to transform her speaking abilities and gain the confidence she needed. Just like Sarah, you too can improve your English fluency by adopting this simple yet powerful method. Graded readers provide a great way to practice in a stress-free, manageable way. Whether you're a beginner or an intermediate learner, reading stories aloud will help you develop your vocabulary, improve your pronunciation, and, most importantly, boost your speaking confidence. So remember, fluency isn't something that happens overnight, but with daily practice, you will get closer to your goal. Take small steps, read aloud, and make it a habit. You've got this. Now that we've heard Sarah's story, let's break down the key things you can do to start improving your fluency right away. Sarah's journey shows us that building speaking confidence is all about consistent practice. By using graded readers and reading aloud, Sarah was able to improve her fluency and feel more confident in conversations. So, how can you apply these lessons to your own learning? Here's what you need to focus on to get better at speaking English every day. Here are some simple, actionable tips you can start using today to boost your speaking skills. Start by picking books or stories that are written for your current level of English. If you're just starting out, go for simpler stories with easy vocabulary and basic sentence structures. As you progress, you can challenge yourself with more complex stories. Make reading aloud a daily habit. This will help you practice pronunciation and get comfortable with the rhythm of English. Even reading for just 10 minutes a day can make a big difference in your speaking skills. Instead of memorizing dictionary definitions, try to understand how words are used in context. This will help you remember new vocabulary and use it more naturally when speaking. Don't just read once and move on. If you come across a sentence or phrase that feels tricky, repeat it several times until you feel comfortable with the pronunciation and flow. This will help you sound more natural when speaking. It's important to practice speaking every day, even if it's just for a few minutes. The more you practice, the more confident you'll become. Start small, and gradually increase the time you spend speaking each day. I'd love to hear from you. What's one story or book that helped you practice English? Was there a particular phrase or sentence that you found challenging at first but eventually mastered? Share it with us in the comments below, and let's start a conversation. I'm excited to hear about your progress and the books that have made a difference for you. If you enjoyed today's lesson and want more tips on improving your English, don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the bell icon so you'll never miss a new video. Keep practicing every day, and soon you'll be speaking English with confidence. You've got this. Stay patient, stay consistent, and I'll see you in the next video. Remember, fluency is a journey, not a race. It takes time, patience, and consistent effort. Just like Sarah, the more you practice, the more confident you'll become. Every time you read aloud or speak in English, you're one step closer to fluency. So, keep practicing, stay consistent, and don't get discouraged by the small challenges along the way. You've already started, and that's the most important part. Soon, speaking English will feel natural and easy. The words will flow more smoothly, and you'll feel more confident in any conversation. Believe in yourself, stay focused, and know that with each practice session, you're improving. You've got this. I'm cheering you on every step of the way. Thank you for watching today's video. Keep practicing, and I'll see you in the next one. Keep up the great work.